Hi there, welcome to Speaking to Students. I'm Johnny Jenkins, and each time on this series we meet a remarkable student who does something extra, something different alongside their degree. And my guest today is Katie Savva, who's a third year biochemistry student at the University of Warwick, involved in the European Space Agency. Yep, that's right, we're talking about space. Also science. Katie's involved in the Young Scientist Journal and plays a very peculiar sport, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Katie, hi, so great to see you today. Biochemistry, is that something that you've always loved?
Yes, I've always loved biology and chemistry, and that's how biochemistry got on my radar, but it's not actually just a mix of the two. It's more about the fundamentals of life, and I like problem solving, and so it just seemed like the subject for me.
When you started your degree doing biochemistry, you were also doing bits of computer science on the side. Now, I think biochemistry is a pretty hard degree on its own. Why is it you had to do a bit more?
Yeah, and it's just something that really interested me. I did computer science for A-level, and with this more technological age that we're in, I think it's really important for a lot of scientists and other degrees as well to have these computational skills. And it's served me well in my degree. I'm doing a project now that is combining computer science and life sciences.
Well, I was going to say, doing those sort of two different subjects must give you quite a lot of perspective when you go back to your main degree and help you there.
Yeah, and it really helps with data analysis and in the labs as well. We handle a lot of big data, and so actually a lot of the life scientists are now learning in modules how to program, and I've been lucky enough to have a head start on that.
When you came to university, you were already involved in the Young Scientist Journal. Just explain to us a little bit what that does and what your role was.
It's a scientific journal completely written, published and edited by young scientists aged 12 to 20 years old. They organise a conference each year as well, and there are some academics that help with the more financial side. When I started, I was an editor for 2 years, and I got to read a whole range of scientific papers, and it really helped my skills. And then I became a senior biochemistry editor, so I ran a little team of editors that helped other young people to publish their work in our journal.
People involved in the journal as young as 12. Now you think of a journal, you think of it as being sort of quite an academic thing, the sort of thing you don't really discover until you go to university. Just how do you get 12-year-olds engaged in scientific journal?
In reality, most of the people who are involved are more in the age range of 14 to 20, but I think just making all of the science exciting and accessible, so a lot of the topics that they cover are things that are important in today's age, and they're things that really impact the youth of today, and so they'll naturally be inquisitive. Younger scientists have a great mind for asking why, and so we really want to utilise that and get their involvement and perspective, because they do have a different perspective on scientific events that is really interesting to read about.
And I suppose studying science whilst doing the journal stuff means that you can keep a track of sort of day-to-day developments, real life science, if you like, rather than the stuff that's in the textbooks.
Yeah, exactly, and for me that makes it more interesting and more likely to engage in the content, and hearing other people's perspectives is incredibly valuable when you're performing any kind of science.
As a young woman in science, you know, there's a big drive at the moment to get more and more women in STEM, that science, technology, engineering, maths, those subjects which for many years have been and were dominated by men. Is that something you think about when you're doing all your science stuff, that you are a woman in STEM, if you like? Is this something that's on your mind?
Yeah, it's always in the back of my mind. It's a very important cause and something that we need to keep pushing for. It's not something that I'm actively working towards every day. You know, I'm just enjoying the science and collaborating with my peers.
Katie, let's talk about space, because there's nothing cooler than it. And you're involved in the European Space Agency. I think we might need to turn back the clock a little bit and learn when you first got that interest in space. Was it as a kid?
Yeah, it was definitely as a kid. You know, I had all the posters on my wall, still do. And as I've advanced through the education system, I've met more and more people with the same passions as me and found more and more opportunities through being in group chats and networking with others.
What is it about space that interests you so much?
I suppose the media has a big role to play in this. You know, I've recently watched Apollo 13 and they make space seem so cool. It's this big grand adventure. You know, what child wouldn't be interested in that?
And so we can bring the clock back to today now, and you're involved in the European Space Agency. What is it you do with them?
I'm part of the Spin Your Thesis 2021 programme, which means I get to go and use all the ESA facilities, I get an ESA mentor, and we're given training to use their massive centrifuge, which is basically just a robot that spins really quickly to simulate the conditions when astronauts launch into space. And so we get to conduct scientific experiments with this equipment.
It's so fascinating. Do you think that one day you may well go to space? I assume it's something that you'd like to do.
Definitely, I would drop everything to go. We'll see when the next astronaut recruitment programme is.
I can definitely see you, on the rocket going up to space. It'll be fantastic. But it's not just science, Katie. It's not just space that interests you alongside your degree, because this is what it's all about, seeing all different things you do alongside your degree. There's also an unusual sport made famous by Harry Potter.
Yeah, so I don't actually like Harry Potter, but I do play Quidditch, which is the sport born from the Harry Potter books, and it's a bit like a mix of rugby and dodgeball. It's mixed gender, it's great fun, and you look stupid doing it, but I've captained the team for 2 years now, and I think it's incredible.
I bet you get some weird looks when you're training.
Definitely, and people often come up and ask us, what is this that you're doing? Do you not feel stupid? But actually it's a great way to get people into doing sports. I hadn't done team sports at all before I started playing Quidditch, and it's just I've made a lot of friends through it, and I've increased my fitness level too.
And it's quite active as well, and I don't think people always realise that. What does it mean to you to do, you've got the degree, which keeps you very busy. Then you've got all your space and your science stuff, which again keeps you very busy. What does it mean to you to be able to get away from that and do some sport?
Well, it's done wonders for my mental health and actually for my productivity when I go back to doing that academic work. I've just spent 2 hours in a field running around with some of my closest friends. I've got all those endorphins, and I really enjoy the break from the more academic side.
And Katie, you're very busy at university. What would you say to someone doing their degree or starting their degree and not sure if they have time or could get involved in other things? Would you just say go for it?
I'd say just go for it. You don't have to do everything. 1 or 2 things is fine, but I think it definitely is what has made my university experience, and I would encourage everyone to go for it.
Well, Katie Savva, you certainly are a remarkable student. Thanks today for talking to us about science, about space, and about Quidditch. And if you like what you see, make sure to like and subscribe.